so much for joining my YouTube channel. I'm super excited because we're doing a series about relationships and Holy Spirit help in our relationships. I think this is really essential for all of us because number one, we all have relationships, and number two, we need help in our relationships. It might be somebody at work or a schoolmate, might be in your family, a husband or a wife, could be maybe a parent, a friend, a work, a neighbor, a colleague, somebody, but we all need help in our relationships. And this series is really very practical to give you tools and some insights for your relationships for Holy Spirit participation and help. So last week we talked about communication, and we looked at Acts chapter 2 in the day of Pentecost and observed Holy Spirit was an essential ingredient for communication and can help us as well with our communication. But today I want to look at the second principle, if you will, on Holy Spirit relationships. And this we read about in Acts chapter 4. And this principle is the principle of definition. You're like, what do you mean by that? Well, I want to propose to you that we allow Holy Spirit to define our relationships. I say that because I know from personal experience, there are times when I've had a friendship that I wanted to go as a deeper friendship, but that person didn't want it. And ultimately, Holy Spirit was like, no, Sarah, that's not my definition. That's not my plan or purpose for this relationship. And there are other friendships that I've had that Holy Spirit defined them and said, no, this needs to be a deeper level. And for some relationships, we don't always know, well, where does this fit in the schematic of relationships? All of us can have, kind of acquaintances. Even a relationship can even be an enemy, hostile relationship. And in Acts chapter 4, you're like, are you kidding me? How does that play out with hostile relationships? Well, in Acts chapter 4, Peter was talking to the Pharisees and Jewish leaders. And when you look at that conversation, it was very hostile and very antagonistic. They were, in essence, enemies. And Holy Spirit was certainly part of Peter's relationships and formulating those relationships. So sometimes we have relationships that can be hostile. And it doesn't mean Holy Spirit's not in it. Actually, Holy Spirit could say, yeah, that's the definition for this relationship. Let's not allow our definitions, our expectations, our perceptions to define our relationships. Let's invite Holy Spirit to define our relationships. So some are hostile, but also in Acts chapter 4, you see Peter had casual or acquaintances, less than, they're not hostile, but there's a friendly, hey, nice to meet you. And Holy Spirit can define. Some of our relationships need to be casual and just acquaintances. Some of our relationships can be friends. And you can see this with Peter as you walk through this chapter. He has these pockets, these definitions of these relationships as Holy Spirit defining these things. And then finally, you can have intimate, close confidants. And Holy Spirit participates and defines that. So Peter and John, they were close, intimate confidants. And that was very much Holy Spirit's definition. So I would encourage you today, maybe you look at your relationships, the whole spectrum of them, and say, Holy Spirit, I'd like for you to define, make clear what the definition is, what the expectations are for my relationship, this one and this one and this one. And when we have that Holy Spirit definition, it helps us flow and receive life and participate in life for our relationship. So I just encourage you today, ask Holy Spirit to define and make clear what are your relationships, various ones, and be flexible because sometimes seasons and situations change. So thanks again for watching. I'd love to get your feedback. Of course, you could share this with a friend because I think all of us need help in our relationships, right? And the definition thing is extremely helpful. So thumbs up, thumbs down, comments would be great. Subscribe, that'd be fantastic. And I know we're all very eager to hear this astounding, amazing joke. All right, we're laughing. So, you know what? I don't remember how to throw a boomerang, but I know it'll come back to me. I know. Everybody on camera is like groaning, oh my gosh. So next week, clearly the joke will be so much better. Of course, we know that. Thanks again for watching.